Excellent. Thanks, Josh. I guess we will dive right in. As Josh mentioned, we're going to be discussing APIs and their impact in the contact center. Before we dive into that, just a little bit about us, about Resourcive. So we are a premier value creation partner. And what we focus on is we focus on the sourcing of technology. We work deeply with our clients across multiple pillars of technology, one of those being contact center. And the type of work that we do is we go in and we engage with them. We understand what they have in place today, what their business challenges are, and what they're trying to accomplish. Over the last, call it 3 to 4 years, we've seen a large increase in the work we're doing around the contact center, specifically helping companies adopt contact center as a service technology. So essentially hosted contact center technologies. And that has created this space where APIs are very, very impactful. So we're excited to get into that today. Jeff, you want to give a quick introduction before I get into the agenda?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. My name is Jeff Moss, one of the consultants here on the Resourcive team. I'm also an avid contact center enthusiast, really excited about today's conversation. I'm less excited about the topic of APIs. What I'm really interested in talking about today, Kyle, with our audience is the business impact that APIs provide and how APIs provide a better customer experience. So while, yes, the topic of APIs is what we're here to talk about today, what I'm really excited about is how it improves the customer journey.
Excellent. Yeah. Just talking about APIs to talk about it is not as fun. Let's talk about the impact. So, to that end, here's kind of what we're going to go through today. So we'll talk a little bit about just an introduction level to what are APIs, and then get into some of the specifics around how we have seen customers use them. And then, Vonage has a platform that's great in this space. They also have a couple of additional components or things that are central or built around their expertise with APIs and their CCaaS platform. So about halfway through, we'll turn it over to Noah and Terry, who will focus on what it looks like specific to their service offering. We'll wrap it up with an impact review, and then Josh will come back on to facilitate any Q&A and as well as a raffle. Do note, June 21st, so about a month away, we will be hosting a hybrid cloud focused webinar, and that will be led by Josh White, who is one of our enterprise consultants. All right, so getting into it specifically, as far as why should anyone pay attention and why does this matter? We have a core belief that a strategically sourced contact center does dramatically improve both the top line, so you drive better customer experience, which increases customer lifetime value, increases retention, which impacts that customer lifetime value, and can also drive efficiency, so it can impact the bottom line through things like enabling your agents to drive down their handle time, or potentially even create the space for self-service or calls that may be more transactional in nature, not ever even hitting your agent or need to be handled by your agent. So we believe it's very important. We have seen the impact in our clients, specifically as far as why CCaaS. There's a couple of high level reasons. The first being what we see when we go into companies that are still in on-premise contact centers is they are typically behind the game as far as what they are delivering from a customer experience perspective. These systems are much more challenging to integrate with, your adjacent technologies. So things like your CRMs or your EHRs or scheduling tools, those sort of things. When you're on premise, it's typically much harder to integrate it. And also, they have staff impact. They have typically a lot of hands in that company, either outsourced to a third party or on that company's payroll who are managing and maintaining it. And finally, the other reason why CCaaS, and specific to this conversation, is vendors who focus on this, vendors like Vonage, as well as others in the space, they have really large development teams and R&D departments. And so they are able to work on and build API integrations, release new features, and things that ultimately drive forward the functionality of the contact center in a way that companies who their core role is not being a contact center provider, just can't keep up with. So they can't keep up with the pace of change. Moving contact centers to the cloud, what it has done is it has created a space where there are, again, these large teams within these providers who are constantly working on integrations. So some of those are out of the box. Some of them require some customization. Some of them are somewhere in between, right? You may have an out of the box integration with Salesforce, but based on the way your Salesforce environment is architected, you may also need some customization. So it is important to understand kind of the desired use case and what you're trying to deliver, and make sure that that's scoped appropriately ahead of time. And then finally, the reason it's important is it allows you to take advantage of your investments across other platforms. So, when we go in and we run an inventory, we talk to our clients about their budget. Typically, their biggest line items are not in telecom. They're not in the contact center technology. They're in things, they're in enterprise applications. They're in Salesforce. They're in their ERP. Those are really big, expensive line items. And through integrating your contact center, you can typically drive, even more business impact out of the investments that you're making there. So really today we're going to focus on the impact and value, and our hope is that we can deliver some information on the art of the possible and begin to conceptualize how to go about adopting some of these technologies. With that, Jeff, I will hand it over to you to go into some of the details here.
Awesome, thanks, Kyle. So I'm going to start off by just demystifying what APIs are, right? We've used a lot of technical jargon in our industry, APIs, IP, and all these different things. So I'm going to start off by just level setting and demystifying what that even means. So what does API stand for? It stands for Application Programming Interface. Think of it as a set of instructions that can be used, and if applied correctly, can tie multiple applications together to create a super app. And we'll talk about that, and we'll get into some examples in a little bit. So high level, what is Application Programming Interfaces, otherwise known as APIs? The word application refers to any software with a distinct function. Interface can be thought of as a contract of service between two applications. So again, what we're going to get into with Vonage today is this idea of taking multiple applications, separate applications, bringing them together through the set of instructions to provide a super application or pull them into a single experience to do a couple of things. Provides a better customer experience, and we'll have some examples. But then also, just as important as a better customer experience is the business outcomes that they provide. So think of an API as a contract that defines how to communicate with each other using requests and responses. And we're not going to get into the technical weeds on exactly what that means, but just high level, think of it as a set of instructions or the glue that holds multiple applications together. There's different types of communication APIs. Usually they're going to fall into one of four buckets, and we'll go through these high level. Communication APIs is the first type. They're used to build high quality voice and video integrations. Think of applications like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, where you can pull things like video into an application, telehealth, teledoc, if you will. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the first bucket for the first type, communication APIs. The next type is authentication APIs, used to verify accounts through things like multiple authentication, through things like phone numbers, voice recognition. Industries like the financial industry, they care about that. When I call into Fidelity, it recognizes my voice. It acknowledges my account. They're using authentication APIs for security. So that might be an example. Management APIs, building customizable, flexible reports that can be analyzed, taking large pieces of information, large data sets, and really drilling down into what is inside the data and how customers can use it. So we're going to talk about things like Power BI, Tableau, and a couple of those others here on this next slide. And then finally, the fourth type of APIs are programmable number APIs. Say that 3 times fast, Kyle. Programmable number APIs. They're used to instantly provision local numbers globally. Programmable number APIs can also be used to authenticate my account when I call in to one of the companies that I do business with. So again, on this slide, what are APIs? Application Programming Interface. What are the 4 different types? Communication, authentication, management, and finally, programmable number APIs. So with that, let's dig into it a little further. So what are the numerous applications, right? How do APIs play into our daily lives? Every single one of us on this call today use APIs multiple times a day without even realizing it. And we'll talk about some of those examples. But the 4 buckets, authentication, I call into Fidelity. I want to check on my 401k, my IRAs. I want to see if it's up or down that particular week. These days, it's probably down. But it'll authenticate through the phone number I call in on, my cell phone number. It'll authenticate through voice recognition. So that'd be an example of where authentication APIs are used when I call into my bank to check on my balances, open up accounts and things like that.
Yeah, and so Jeff, it may be worth expanding on there. You know, what's really happening is when that call is happening, it's coming into, you know, the PBX or the contact center provider, and there's actually something in the script that says, and this is the API, and it looks at that number, does a request against a database, likely in that case a CRM of some sort, and says, hey, yes, this number does belong to Jeff. And then sometimes it'll, you know, if you want 2-factor, it's going to ask you, hey, can you enter your date of birth? Can you enter something else? And all of that transmission of data between those 2 systems and what ties them together is essentially written in APIs.
Yeah, so it's that additional level of security, Kyle, that you're talking about, right? And doing all of it before the customer gets to a live agent so that the live agent doesn't have to ask the customer for their account number. Why are you calling in? Can you give me the last 4 digits of your social security number? Or some companies ask for the entire social security number. My social has been hacked. I'm not giving up my social security number to anybody. If they want to authenticate it through APIs, that's fine, but I'm not going to verbally give my social security number out over the phone anymore. Been there, done that. So authentication APIs. The next bucket that we talked about, communication APIs. Lots of different examples, video, voice, conversation. The best example of that is during COVID, everything got locked down. We came out of COVID. Now I don't have to get in the car, drive to my doctor's office and sit in the lobby for 45 minutes to go in there for a 2-minute appointment. I can use telehealth. So it's not uncommon these days to book the appointment with my doctor through an SMS API, so conversation. But when it comes time for the appointment, I can grab my phone, I can grab my MacBook, I can use telehealth. They pull video into their communication stream, and I can do all that and get a better experience as a patient, and I can do all that without having to leave the house. So that'd be a couple of examples. Another example of video, last year I flew into Denver International Airport. When I got off of the flight and walked into the terminal, there was a sign that said, click here on this QR code, and you can get help with navigating the Denver International Airport. Again, pulling video into SMS, taking multiple applications, tying them together in the back end with a set of instructions, if you will, to provide a better customer experience, a better customer journey. The next bucket, programmable number APIs. We've already touched on this a little bit, but the best example of this would be messaging, where whether it's Uber, making an appointment for my dentist, drop my dogs off for daycare a couple times a week, I can do all that through my smartphone using SMS. I can get updates on orders. Instead of going to the FedEx website and having to sit there and monitor it on the website, I now get SMS updates on packages. All examples of messaging. And then finally, the last bucket, business outcomes, management APIs. Using services like Tableau, Looker, Power BI applications that can pull data in and out of a native CRM into another application or another business tool that I can use to predict outcomes, predictable outcomes. So management APIs. So different examples of what numerous applications are. Kyle, I'm going to leave you with one last example, and then we'll turn it over to our friends at Vonage. I was in Dallas this week for meetings. On the way back yesterday, pulled off of I-35, wanted to grab a hamburger and some fries. Pulled out of the drive-thru, reached in the bag. My fries were soggy. I'm not going to call out the Golden Arches, but we all know who I'm referring to when I say the Golden Arches. I don't get fast food very often, so I turned around, pulled back in the parking lot, got out of my car, went inside, very pleasantly walked over to the young lady at the counter and said, "Could you do me a favor and refresh my fries? I don't like soggy fries." I wish there was a way for me to pull through that particular drive-through and not drive off with soggy fries. I don't know if Vonage has a solution for that, but if you do, I'm all ears, guys. With that, Kyle, I'm going to turn it over to our friends at Vonage.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody. My name's Terry Daly. I'm an account executive at Vonage. I've been with the business for a good while now, but always focusing on contact center. So today, we want to focus on the contact center and APIs and how that can create better business outcomes for customers. But in doing so, I think it is really important to take a step back, zoom out, who Vonage is and what we do, because we do many things. And it's a brand name that a lot of people know of from back in the day, right? Always a pioneer in communications. Back in the day, it was residential VoIP, bringing phone and connectivity at a cheap cost and easy to deploy into people's homes. Obviously, that platform has gone away over the years, but was always a stable communications network, specifically starting with voice, that people could rely on and a brand that they trust. Over the last 20 years, we pivoted that to, from a consumer brand to really a business to business brand. So we think of that platform, the Vonage Communications Platform, or VCP, as consisting of three main pillars. So unified communications, or UCaaS, contact center, and CCaaS, which is the focus of this webinar, and programmable communications, aka APIs. And as Jeff and Kyle have alluded to, we think of our API platform as really the glue that holds everything together. So that can iterate itself in managed package, easily configurable and out of the box deployable integrations with the big box CRMs, the Salesforces of the world, Dynamics, Oracle, you name it, ServiceNow, all these big box CRMs we've had integrations with for years. And although we do continue to innovate there, what's next is kind of financial services and healthcare, specific industry-based integrations that in the past were hard to do because of compliance and regulations around those industries that have been very locked down. So you need, HIPAA compliant, high trust APIs in order to make those integrations. You can't just rely on simple REST APIs, which most vendors are able to provide and which we can use to integrate with the Salesforces of the world. So most recently, we've developed specific customized integrations for Epic CRM, or EHRs, I should say, Cerner. On the financial services side, it's Fiserv, Jack Henry. And that's bringing a lot of value to these healthcare and financial services organizations that in the past, really needed to operate on on-premise, solutions and contact center platforms that did not have the possibilities to integrate. So us as a cloud platform have opened up some of these possibilities. So that's kind of the out of the box managed package integration flavor. What we want to talk to you about a little bit even more today is more of the customized programmable API side of things. So for your homegrown solutions, for customized specific solutions, how do you use the data that you know about your customers and use it to value the conversations that you're having with them? Is it providing a data dip with an interaction content API to read back information to the customer to power their journey? Is it writing data into some sort of platform with an insights API? So those are data-based APIs. But what about the other APIs that we've talked about today? So voice, Vonage is API platform. Not everybody knows that we necessarily have one, but I think most people have actually touched these APIs and used them without ever knowing that they were Vonage. So the voice API, based off of our programmable communications, it would fall in that bucket, as Jeff referred to it. You've probably used with the major ride app shares. So your Ubers, your Lyfts, we power at least a portion of those communications when you're speaking with a driver, and a number is automatically provisioned to them and assigned to them when you hit that call driver button, and your number is not shown to that driver and their specific personal number is not shown to the driver either. So it's bridging a communication using a randomized phone number to do so. And the same with the texting with that application. Video, we've seen a lot of use cases pop up in the last 2 to 3 years. It was really mandatory, specifically in healthcare. So although we can deliver a call to our interface in Vonage with voice, that's really easy. That's the table stakes. But what happens when you are an agent that is in a specific industry that needs to see what is going on with your customer in order to help them? That video API, in the Vonage use case, you can click directly from your call control. I want to escalate this to video. The customer will be sent a WhatsApp or SMS, whatever the channel of their choice is. They will see that on their phone, click it without downloading any sort of application or software to their computer, be directed immediately to a web page and instantiate a video meeting session, and therefore connecting the agent and customer via video, helping them to solve their problem or their case quicker through a different channel, SMS, verify applications, handling social media requests, and actually taking an order with a conversational commerce solution. Those are all available with our API. So APIs are always a very vague subject, and that's because there's so many different things that they can do. But I think the bottom line really is these APIs on a communications platform like Vonage are giving companies the ability to communicate with their customers in the way that those customers want to reach out from a multi-channel, omni-channel perspective to drive value, boost customer experience, and boost revenue. So with that said, I wanted to hand it over to Noah Whittle, who's going to take you through a little bit of a art of the possible in a demonstration of the Vonage Contact Center and our APIs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. So let me bring up my screen real quick, and there we go. So this is currently an agent that is working within Salesforce, and I have a contact open. What I'm going to show and demonstrate is this particular customer, Larry Fitzgerald, wants to change their delivery date on a service that they ordered. So when I first call into the system, they're going to be greeted
Welcome to Resourcive Cloud First.
Let's authenticate you with your voice. Repeat the passphrase, please authenticate me with my voice, after the beep.
Please authenticate me with my voice.
Thank you. You have been authenticated using your voice.
So now the system recognized based on data that is stored within our system and utilizing APIs, making sure that the agent the agent is only providing information to the individual that is authorized to make those changes. I want to change the delivery.
I believe you would be best helped by one of my human colleagues, so I am just transferring you now.
I didn't talk fast enough. So I am going to receive this phone call. And now a couple of things happened based on the APIs that we have in place. So the first thing is there was a screen pop for this particular interaction. It showed the person that was calling, the number that they called from, and you can see that that account through our virtual assistant had been verified. And so I know for sure that as an agent, I'm talking to Larry. If I need to make any changes on his account or her account, I can do that knowing that I am speaking to that individual. So if I go back to Larry's orders, I can see that Larry had an order right now for a Polycom sound station. The delivery date was June 1st. The system can recognize based on the phone number, based on natural language of what Larry says through the system, or DTMF tones on the keypad of the phone, any type of information. So if Larry wanted to change the delivery date from June 1st to June 10th, utilizing APIs and natural language, the system recognizes what information needs to be changed, updates that real time within the CRM or any other type of back office ordering platform or EMR, EHR records, and is able to offload all of those like mundane tasks from a contact center agent. So now the agents are able to assist more complex interactions and therefore increasing customer satisfaction because wait times have been dropped because a virtual agent can take many interactions all at once, whereas a human can only do one at a time, maybe two. So utilizing APIs, utilizing the technology that Vonage has for virtual assistants, integration with contact centers, FinServe type applications like Jack Henry or other EMR, EHR like Cerner, we're able to provide real-time information to an agent and transfer information back and forth between the agent, the customer, and the various systems that the user or the company is utilizing. So let me go ahead and call back in one more time. So I am in ready status as an agent.
Let's authenticate you with your voice. Repeat the passphrase, please authenticate me with my voice, after the beep.
Please authenticate me with my voice.
Thank you. You have been authenticated using your voice.
Hi, you are now talking to Z, a virtual assistant, and I am here to help. Can you tell me the reason for your call today?
I need to change the delivery date of my order.
Your order number ending in 0320 for Polycom Sound Station 6000 has the status of submitted and is due for delivery on June 1st, 2023. Would you like to change the delivery date?
Yes.
What is your preferred new delivery date?
The 1st of July.
I encountered a problem updating your order with that delivery date. It can only be within 30 days from today. Let's try one more time. What is your preferred new delivery date?
15th of June.
Thank you. Your delivery date has been updated as June 15th, 2023. I noticed your order with value $19 will qualify for free shipping when it reaches $20. Can I transfer you to one of my human colleagues to add additional items?
Sure.
Can I transfer you to one of our agents to discuss qualifying for free shipping?
Yes. So as you can see, the delivery date automatically was updated. The call then gets sent over to the agent. I'll go ahead and accept that, put everything on mute. So now again, all utilizing the APIs that we have pre-built, so there's no coding involved. I can utilize natural language to verify with voice biometrics a person that's calling in. So there's lots of different applications, whether it's banking, whether it's healthcare, just any time that there's sensitive information that needs to be released only to a verified user. We have those use cases. So in this particular case, it is an order that needed to be changed. So I have the ability to change the delivery date. Using APIs, could have changed the product that I wanted to have shipped out. The possibilities are really endless. So APIs are basically a building block for connecting various platforms together to utilize data within each of those platforms and providing that information not only to an end customer, but to an agent that's assisting that customer. There are so many other applications that this can be utilized. For example, utilizing our APIs, and I have, again, this isn't Salesforce, but it could be within any other CRM or EMR, EHR type situation, where based on all of the calls or chats or any other interactions, I can search keywords and phrases and be able to find, in this particular case, I'm doing a sales dashboard. I can find out how effective the top agents were based on specific words and phrases that were ever utilized within conversations for a given period of time, like a week or a month or what have you. Likewise, I can do the opposite and see what words and phrases were used that could have negatively impacted a sale. So based on real-time transcription, post-call transcription, and the APIs that we have available, we can generate real data that can drive business outcomes to any type of small business, medium business, or enterprise type customer, regardless of the vertical that they're in. So that's all that I had for today. Any questions before I pass this back?
All good. I will take the baton from you, Noah. Thank you. So to kind of continue on Jeff's thought there, it turns out we do have a solution to the soggy fries problem. So a real life customer example of a well-known fast food burger and fry chain uses our APIs for a number of different reasons. They started using our APIs to develop an in-app ordering experience. And back when this was revolutionary, it was always about speed. That was the first and foremost. We want to allow our customers to order through the channel of their choice, which is through the application. And we want to get that order out to them as fast as possible, get their food cooked and ready for them for pickup immediately. But what the company quickly learned was maybe speed was not necessarily the best metric to raise this on. Maybe it was really about customer experience, because what they were finding was they were dropping those fries and dropping those orders quicker than the customer could get to them. And oftentimes, customers don't necessarily order and get right in their car to pick up, even if it says it's a 10, 15, 20-minute order and they live 5 miles away. They might get sidetracked. They might have other things to do. So And therefore they may show up late to pick that order 40 minutes later. So how do you solve that problem, right? What we did was integrate their application into GPS. So allow the iPhone or the Droid or whatever it may be, they need to first allow access to GPS within their phone so that we know where they are. That was integrated into the application and combined with communications API, so voice and SMS. So what would happen is they would order the fries. They would immediately get a message, hey, your order should be ready in about 15 minutes. But with that said, that was kind of the standard. That was the out of the box. With that said, all the while, the application was tracking where the customer was. So really, in reality, the fast food chain was not dropping those fries until they hit the 2-mile radius geofence, which triggered the application to send a message to the burger joint to drop those fries, get those ready. At that time, the customer was sent a text, hey, your fries are almost ready. Boom, they show up. Those fries are no longer soggy. They are crispy fries, and everybody's happy. So that's really the story of how we solve soggy fries with communications and GPS APIs, all through the power of Vonage and through the power of their developers for their in-house application. And it didn't end there, right? So they were able to follow up with SMS APIs to send out, hey, are you satisfied with this? And tracking that CSAT and promoter score. Hey, did you like the service you had today? How did the food taste? That's all available through APIs to get to the customer through the channel of their choice, which in this case was in-app and through SMS and through chat. So that covers everything that Vonage was going to discuss here in regards to contact center, communicating with the customers, and doing so with the power of API. So I will hand it back to the Resourcive team. But thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you, Terry and Noah. Really appreciate your guys' support and partnership here. Just a few kind of words on the business value and ROI, even within that case study. And I think that's one that's kind of out there, right? I mean, but it does highlight the really the flexibility that is possible here. The story is really anchored in using a defined triggering event, right? So whether it is the traditional triggering event in a call center is somebody's actually calling you in, right? Or calling into you. But in this case, it's coming within a defined area. Really, for APIs to work, you have to determine what the triggering event is that you want to initiate a known process to. And so in this case, that was them, the customers actually coming inside that geofenced area. As far as what actually happens there, right? You have an improved customer experience. You don't have, people like Jeff coming in and saying, "Hey, I got soggy fries. I need more," right? So not only is it a better customer experience, but you obviously have costs that are incurred there. So there's efficiencies for the restaurant team because they're not needing to serve that twice. And in that instance, once that was built, and once that in-house team was able to utilize that API, there was really minimal ongoing solution support. So that's always nice. And then finally, there's that customer engagement. So, Terry made a couple notes about surveys, and that is important. But additionally, what is happening there is now your marketing team has more customer data, right? There's value to the customer providing their number to you now because they're getting SMS updates. However, you now have that additional data and you can engage with them in a way that, is beneficial to the business. As far as when this could matter most, first and foremost, organizations have adjacent tool sets that agents or customer service people are living in, or it could be applications, in-house applications, which is what Terry was just touching on. Next is you're attempting to deliver an event-based communication. So something like a geofence, something like a new order, something where there is a known event happening at scale, because you're going to have to put some time into developing these APIs, but something that's happening at scale and you want to trigger a workflow out of that, you really need some sort of triggering event that is constant and consistent to drive the value out of APIs. And then look, they are a way for organizations to, meet scales and increase in contact volumes. And so they can be used in that way as well. I will jump over to any Q&A here. And Josh, I guess I'll turn it over to you here to facilitate kind of what we have remaining.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, we have a couple that came in actually during registration. So the first one here is in regards to, I guess, the sourcing when it's a 1,000+ agent ecosystem, how that impacts, the I don't know if this is respect to Vonage, but when exploring the different vendors that are out there, when you get over the 1,000 contact agent threshold, if this starts to look different than at a 250 agent level.
So, the business case and the result and the impact obviously looks different at scale. I think when evaluating this, what I see is kind of the first thing you need to understand is what are the use cases you are trying to solve for specifically, and what are the adjacent systems. When going to market and trying to identify a best fit solution here, it's really important to understand those adjacent systems, because Vonage may have a pre-built integration or maybe has worked very closely with that specific CRM to, or ERP or whatever it is that you're using. Or in the case of like the soggy fries instance, their SDK, so their software development kit, may be more in alignment with your development team's capabilities. And so for me, when we're working with clients, whether it's at 250 agents or at 1,000 agents, it really starts by understanding what, one, the use case that we're trying to solve for, but two, all of the adjacent systems that are in play, and not only looking at that vendor and their capabilities. You really need to understand the extensibility of those capabilities into the adjacent systems.
Yeah, and Kyle, I would add that at that contact center conference I was at yesterday, they were throwing out some stats. 86% of contact centers have less than 500 agents in the environment. So the sweet spot is between 250 and 500 agents, where the type of applications and capabilities and that art of the possible that we've been talking about today absolutely applies. Yes, there are contact centers that are up into the thousands, but 86% of them have less than 1,000 agents.
Great, thanks guys. The second question, and I think we can probably wrap with this, is around compliance with respect to these APIs. I think this question was specific to HIPAA, so I don't know if there's any color the group can provide around compliance in these APIs.
Terry, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. From a Vonage perspective, we are actually very well known for our compliance across financial services, healthcare, obviously with healthcare specifically HIPAA. Our video API is HIPAA compliant, which is the biggest one. That's usually what people want to understand and have confidence in. Our other APIs such as voice and SMS are also HIPAA compliant. So to give you the confidence, Teladoc actually is our biggest video API customer. That's what they use to go and build their proprietary platform. We are the API that powers that video. Specifically, that API is called the TalkBox API. So I think that's really the best illustration, best way to make people feel really comfortable with our API is that probably the biggest and market leading telehealth platform is actually speaking to thousands, probably more like millions of customers every day using that API.